What's up, YouTube? Wraithyn here. I am back with another top 3-ish tips on how to play jungle in Season 8. Let's get right into the fun stuff because Season 8 has brought about a number of changes to the Conquest meta and we have a lot to cover. But if you close your eyes, there's more farm, more to do, more to pay attention to, and the majority of these changes all occur in that space between the lanes. This has led to a number of interesting adjustments in the way you play the jungle role. Again, I'm sure some of you will disagree, but based on 2 long weekends of PTS testing and almost exclusively playing in the jungle and mid roles, these are my observations. Let's dive in. All right, starting off with number 3, commit to poke. This one's actually a bit of a paradigm change in the way that junglers typically engage during the laning and mid game phases. The map is huge now, and mid lane safety is basically non-existent. This provides a ripe opportunity for good junglers to go for poke instead of kills. Sure, if you get a kill on somebody, it's great and you've done well for your team, but in Season 7, you almost always had to kill someone in any of the lanes in order to make the risk of full engaging worth it. If you poked them out, they'd at worst lose maybe 1 or 2 mid... God damn it. If you poke them out, they at worst lose 1, maybe 2 waves during the mid game, but that all changes with Season 8. The lanes are unsafe, and getting the enemy team to use their relics is even more important than it was in Season 7. It also feels like it takes forever to get back to lane if you're poked out in mid, and there's a ton of farm to grab along the way to compensate for losing waves. This actually creates a pretty unique opportunity for you and your mid laner to push, invade, gank, or take an objective while the enemy secure has back to base. You have much longer to blitz an objective down when you know the mid laner has returned to base. For example, if I poke out the enemy Kukulkan, I know I have a significant amount of time before his big securing ult makes it back to the middle of the map. This means that objectives like Gold Fury, Scorpions, Fire Giant, Pyro, what have you, are that much more vulnerable when a person is poked out in lane. To summarize, you don't really need to get a kill every time you engage in the mid lane or even in the side lanes, and it's totally worth to burn your blink and ult and force the mage back to base. As long as you have a plan to take something afterwards. Too often you'll see junglers just full commit, they don't get a kill, and they just go about their merry way with farming. Kill him! Punish him! Kill him! Always have a plan 2 to 3 steps ahead around what you're going to do next after poking out the mid laner. All right, that's it for number 3. It's kind of the weakest of the 3, but leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about that one. I literally feed my editor and give him time out in the sunlight based on the number of subs and comments I get in a month, so do it for him, not for me. We'd love to hear your feedback. All right, moving right along. Number 2, farm more. This one's actually pretty obvious and it has almost been a thing for players of all roles to keep in mind every season, but with the Season 8 changes, this is even more important. Every good jungler is constantly thinking 2 to 3 steps ahead of whatever they're doing right now. They're on an objective or a camp or ganking. There's no exception. You should always be planning out where your next source of farm or objective play is going to come from. You should be constantly thinking, what next? In Season 7, this was actually pretty simple. It was usually get a pick, go objective. If no objective, go for some farm. That said, in Season 8, there's so much farm up on the map. It feels almost impossible to be clearing all of the camps during the game, especially if you're invading. Kind of ties into my first point, but chasing kills, diving, and risking your own trip back to the fountain is extremely detrimental. You need to prioritize farm in this new meta, and you need to constantly ask yourself if what you're doing instead of farming is worth it. All right, that wraps up number 2. What do you think about this one? By the way, guys, I'm going to be cranking out Season 8 content, including god guides, tier lists, build guides, gameplay, and updated information on how the meta changes over the next couple of months with the new map. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and keep your notifications on. If you like this kind of stuff, I'm going to be hammering these videos out as fast as I can. All right, moving on to number 1, last one, fast one. It's pretty easy, and this one kind of hurts me even to say out loud, but you need to gank less, especially on late game gods. If you haven't figured out by now, the overarching theme to all 3 of these is prioritizing spending time in the actual jungle versus running the traditional mid 3v3 that's been meta for what feels like the last 4 years. The saddest realization of all of this is kind of my number one point is really you just need to gank less. Every single time I played a jungler where I spent a season 7's worth of time ganking instead of securing my team's farm, I somehow found myself a few levels down. And I'm actually pretty good at farming a lead on the season 7 map. It's one of the things I actually do well. On the season 7 map, it felt really good to fight and go for the high score on kills before 10 minutes. It's extremely punishing to be ganking over and over because that's you going for a kill instead of prioritizing the loads of farm that's up on the map to get you a lead. This is also especially impactful on traditionally late game junglers like Ao Kuang, Kali, Hebo, and more. There's so much safe farm on your side of the map. You could go the whole first 10 minutes without showing your face in any lane and power farm a 2-level lead off of that alone, only showing up for the best of team fights. Normally with these late game gods in season 7, you'd split most of the farm in your jungle and then have to make an awkward play for the neutral camps in mid. And now there's just so much solo farm and XP in your jungle, you can play the long game much easier. Keep this in mind as you select your junglers. If you have somebody who is a typically good early game, use that to power farm yourself to a healthy lead and then start the ganks. Conversely, if you have somebody who is more late game focused, prioritize farm on your own side of the map, stay safe, and get yourself to a point in the game where you're impactful. So those are my top 3. Let me know what you think. And I was going to let you guys off with just 3, but I do have kind of a 3+ tip for you that doesn't really require much explanation. And that is to delay your engagements in team fights just a little bit longer than you normally do. If you watch my top 5 tips for junglers video, you'll know what I'm talking about here. It's that post-engage phase. And one of the things I noticed about team fighting in Season 8 is just how stretched out the team fights get and how easy it is to separate the tanks from the carries. If you time your engagements in the jungle just a little bit longer than normal, typically you're going to find better opportunities to pick someone off in the backline. Try it out and let me know what you think. Well, guys, that's it for me. Let me know in the comment section what you think, or if you have any observations around how jungling is different in the new season. Again, this is purely based off my observations during both PTS weekends and a little bit since launch, and I could be biased as I was mostly experimenting with new farm routes and learning the new map. Either way, it'll be interesting to see how my favorite role evolves during the season. As always, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, buy my merch, name your firstborn after me, build a statue in my likeness, and I'll see you guys in the next one.